Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The morning sun was a lazy golden orb rising over the bustling city as I walked hand in hand with my dad, Marcus, to the bus stop. The streets were alive with the usual morning frenzy, honking cars, hurried footsteps, and the distant sound of vendors setting up their stalls. My heart raced with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Today was my first day taking the bus alone to school. "Remember, Lisa," Dad said, his voice a steady anchor in the chaos. "You get off at the third stop after the park. Keep your eyes open and be careful." "I know, Dad." "I'll be fine," I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. At 11, I was eager to prove my independence but also secretly terrified. We reached the bus stop just as the bus lumbered into view, its metallic body gleaming in the morning light. The doors opened with a hiss and passengers flowed in and out like waves. Dad hugged me tightly, his embrace a mix of pride and worry. "You've got this, sweetheart," he whispered. "Just be careful." "I will, Dad. See you later," I said, giving him a brave smile. The bus doors closed behind me, and I found a seat near the front, clutching my backpack to my chest. The familiar hum of the engine and the rhythmic sway of the bus soon lulled me into a sense of calm. Outside the window, the city buzzed with life, people rushing to work, children playing, and vendors calling out their wares. At the next stop, the bus halted to let more passengers on. Among them was a woman who immediately caught my attention. She looked frail, her clothes worn and tattered, and her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. She hesitated at the turnstile, rummaging through her pockets, but it was clear she didn't have enough money for the fare. The bus driver, a burly man with a permanent scowl etched on his face, noticed her struggle and sneered. "What do you mean you have no money? Then what are you doing here? Get off the bus." The woman's face flushed with embarrassment as she tried to explain. "Please, I need to get to my destination. I promise I'll come back and pay you." The driver's voice grew louder, his tone dripping with disdain. "Yeah, right. I've heard that before. Get off my bus." Tears welled up in the woman's eyes as she pleaded with the driver. "Please, sir. I really need to get to my destination." The other passengers looked on, some with pity, others with indifference. I felt a pang of anger and sadness. I couldn't just sit there and watch her suffer. Gathering all my courage, I stood up and walked to the front of the bus, my small hand clutching the money I had saved for lunch. "Here," I said, holding out the money to the driver. "This should cover her fare." The driver stared at me, his scowl deepening. You're just a kid. Why would you do that?" "Because it's the right thing to do," I replied, my voice steady despite the nervous flutter in my chest. The driver grumbled but took the money, allowing the woman to pass. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, her face a mix of relief and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to repay you." "It's okay," I said, offering her a small smile. "Nobody should be treated like that." As she found a seat, the bus continued its journey, and I returned to my spot, my heart swelling with pride and a sense of accomplishment. But just when I thought the drama was over, the unexpected happened. A man sitting a few seats behind me, who had been watching the whole scene unfold, suddenly stood up and made his way to the front of the bus. He was tall and well-dressed, with an air of authority that made everyone sit up a little straighter. "Excuse me," he said, addressing the driver. "I witnessed the whole incident and I must say, I'm appalled by your behavior." The driver looked taken aback. "What are you talking about?" "The way you treated that woman was unacceptable," the man continued, his voice calm but firm. "If it weren't for this brave young girl, you would have thrown her off the bus. This is not how we treat people in need." The driver mumbled something under his breath, clearly uncomfortable with the confrontation. The man turned to me, a kind smile spreading across his face. "Young lady, you did a very noble thing today. You should be proud of yourself." "Thank you," I replied, blushing under his praise. The man reached into his pocket and handed me a crisp $20 bill. "For your lunch, and for your kindness." I took the money, stunned by the unexpected gift. "Thank you, sir." As the man returned to his seat, the bus continued its route, and a sense of calm settled over the passengers. The woman who had been saved from humiliation gave me a grateful nod, her eyes still glistening with tears. I felt a warmth spread through me, knowing that I had made a difference in someone's life. When the bus reached my stop, I got off and walked towards my school, my heart light and my spirits high. Little did I know that this small act of kindness was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey that would change my life forever. As I walked through the school gates, I couldn't wait to tell Dad about the events of the morning. I knew he would be proud, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose and courage. The world was full of challenges, but it was also full of opportunities to make a difference. And today I had taken my first step towards becoming the person I wanted to be. The day after my eventful bus ride, the sun seemed to shine a little brighter. I felt an excited energy as I walked to school, eager to share yesterday's events with my friends. Little did I know, a series of surprises awaited me that would forever alter the course of my life. The morning started as usual, with the buzz of chatter filling the hallways and the sound of lockers clanging shut. I found my best friend Emily waiting by our classroom door. "Hey Lisa, you look like you have a secret," she said, raising an eyebrow. I grinned. "You won't believe what happened yesterday on the bus." Just as I began recounting the story, our teacher, Mrs. Thompson, ushered us inside. "Settle down, everyone. We have a lot to cover today." The morning lessons flew by, but my mind kept drifting back to the woman on the bus and the mysterious man who had praised me. Finally, lunchtime arrived, and I could barely contain my excitement as I told Emily and a few other friends about my small act of kindness. "Wow, Lisa. That's amazing," Emily said, her eyes wide. "I can't believe you did that." "I just couldn't let the driver treat her like that," I replied. It felt right to help. As we sat under our usual tree in the schoolyard, a sleek black Mercedes pulled up to the school gates. It was a car that seemed out of place among the usual mix of SUVs and minivans. The murmurs around the yard grew louder as the car door opened and out stepped that woman from the bus that I helped yesterday. Gone were the worn clothes and the air of desperation. She wore an elegant dress and her hair was styled perfectly. The aura of dignity and confidence around her was unmistakable. She walked with purpose toward the school office, and I felt a strange mix of curiosity and anxiety. "Isn't that?" Emily began, her voice trailing off. "Yes," I whispered, my heart pounding. "That's her." Minutes later, the school intercom crackled to life. "Lisa Mitchell, please report to the principal's office." Lisa Mitchell to the principal's office. My friends exchanged glances, their faces a mix of surprise and concern. I stood up, feeling my legs tremble slightly. "Wish me luck," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. As I made my way to the office, I couldn't help but wonder why she was here. Was she in trouble? Did she come to repay me as she had promised? When I arrived at the office, the receptionist greeted me with a warm smile. "Lisa, go right in. They're expecting you." I took a deep breath and opened the door. Inside, the woman stood next to Mr. Reynolds, the principal. Her face lit up when she saw me. "Lisa, it's so good to see you again," she said, her voice filled with genuine warmth. "I'm Lydia Bennett. You might not recognize me from yesterday." "I do," I replied, smiling shyly. "You look different." Lydia laughed softly. "Yes, yesterday was a tough day, but your kindness changed everything." Mr. Reynolds stepped forward, his expression kind but curious. "Lydia has been telling me about your act of generosity, Lisa. We're all very proud of you." "Thank you," I said, my cheeks flushing with embarrassment. Lydia reached out and took my hand. "Lisa, I came here today to fulfill my promise. Your kindness was a light in my darkest moment, and I want to repay you. I spoke with Mr. Reynolds, and I would like to offer you a full scholarship to cover your education here." My eyes widened in shock. "Really? But why?" "Because you deserve it," Lydia said, her eyes shining with sincerity. "And because we need more people like you in this world." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "Thank you so much. This means everything to me and my dad." As if on cue, there was a knock on the door, and Dad walked in, looking puzzled. "Mr. Reynolds called me in," he said, glancing around the room. When he saw Lydia, his eyes widened with surprise. "Mr. Mitchell," Lydia said, smiling. "I am indebted to your daughter. She's a remarkable young girl." Dad's face softened with pride. "She is. Thank you for this incredible opportunity." "That's not all," Lydia continued, her expression serious yet hopeful. Mr. Mitchell, I understand you're an engineer by training but have been out of work. My father owns a technology company, and we've been looking for talented engineers. I'd like to offer you a position at our firm. Dad looked stunned. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Dad, I urged, my heart swelling with joy. He nodded, tears in his eyes. Yes, thank you. This is beyond anything we could have imagined. Lydia smiled, her eyes twinkling with happiness. Good. Now let's make sure Lisa gets the education she deserves, and you get back to doing what you love. As we left the office, the weight of the world seemed to lift from our shoulders. A simple act of kindness had set off a chain of events that would transform our lives in ways we never thought possible. I glanced at Dad, who looked happier than he had in years, and I knew that everything was going to be okay. The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch. As I walked back to class, my heart felt light and full of hope. The future was a bright and open road, filled with endless possibilities, and it all began with a bus ride and a single act of kindness. The weeks following the unexpected arrival of Lydia Bennett were a whirlwind of activity and change. My life and my father's transformed in ways we had never dared to dream. The first major change was my new scholarship. Lydia had not only arranged for my current education to be fully funded, but had also set up a trust fund to ensure my college tuition would be covered. The school held a small ceremony in my honor, and I found myself at the center of attention, something I wasn't quite used to. I can't believe this is all happening, I whispered to Emily as we walked into the assembly hall. It's like a dream. Believe it, Lisa? You deserve every bit of it, Emily replied, squeezing my hand. The ceremony was heartwarming, with Mr. Reynolds giving a speech about kindness and the impact of small, selfless acts. Lydia spoke too, sharing her gratitude and reinforcing the message that kindness can change lives. When it was my turn to speak, I felt a mixture of nervousness and pride. I didn't do anything special. I began, my voice trembling slightly. I just did what felt right. If we all look out for each other, even in small ways, we can make a big difference. The audience erupted into applause, and I felt a warmth spread through me. It was the first of many new beginnings. At home, Dad was getting ready for his new job. I hadn't seen him this excited in years. The job at Lydia's father's company was more than just a lifeline. It was a chance for him to reignite his passion for engineering. I can't believe I'll be working on real projects again, Dad said one evening as he adjusted his tie in the mirror. It's like a second chance. You deserve it, Dad, I said, beaming at him. You're the smartest person I know. Thanks, kiddo, he replied, ruffling my hair affectionately. I just want to make you proud. I already do, I said softly. Lydia became a frequent visitor to our home. One evening, she invited us to her estate for dinner. I was both excited and nervous about the visit. As we pulled up to her sprawling mansion, I couldn't help but feel a bit out of place. But Lydia greeted us at the door with a warm smile, instantly putting us at ease. Welcome, Lisa. Mr. Mitchell, please come in, she said, leading us into a grand dining room. Dinner was an elegant affair with delicious food and engaging conversation. Lydia's father, Mr. Bennett, was a charming man who immediately made us feel at home. So Lisa, Mr. Bennett said, turning to me. What do you want to be when you grow up? I hesitated, feeling the weight of the question. I don't know yet. There are so many things I want to do. That's the best answer you could give, Mr. Bennett replied, smiling. The world is full of possibilities. Take your time to explore them all. As the evening went on, Lydia shared more about her life. She had started from humble beginnings and worked her way up to where she was now. Her story was both inspiring and motivating. Remember, Lisa, Lydia said as we were leaving. Never let anyone tell you that you can't achieve something. You're capable of greatness. The following months were a period of growth and adjustment. Dad settled into his new job, and I threw myself into my studies, determined to make the most of the opportunities given to me. Lydia continued to mentor me, and I began to see her as a role model. One day as I was leaving school, I saw Lydia waiting for me by her car. She looked more serious than usual. Lisa, I need to talk to you about something important, she said as I approached. What's wrong? I asked, feeling a knot of anxiety form in my stomach. It's about your father, she replied, her expression softening. He mentioned that he's been struggling with some health issues. I want to help. I felt a pang of worry. Dad had been complaining of fatigue lately, but I had brushed it off as him adjusting to his new job. What can we do? I asked, my voice trembling. First, we'll get him a thorough medical checkup, Lydia said firmly, and we'll make sure he gets the best care possible. True to her word, Lydia arranged for Dad to see a top specialist. The diagnosis was a mild heart condition that required medication and lifestyle changes. It was a scare, but knowing he was in good hands brought us relief. Through it all, our bond with Lydia grew stronger. She became a part of our family, and we learned to lean on each other through the ups and downs. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Dad looked at me with a thoughtful expression. You know, Lisa, it's incredible how much our lives have changed. It really is, I agreed. And it's all thanks to you being such a good person. Dad smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. I just wish your mom could see all of this. She'd be so proud. She is, I said softly, reaching out to hold his hand. I know she is. Lydia, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. Lisa, your mother's spirit lives on through you. You're a testament to her kindness and strength. As I looked around the table at the people who had become my family, I realized that this was just the beginning. New beginnings are often disguised as painful endings, but with each challenge we faced, we grew stronger. I realized that one single good deed can make a huge difference in life. The law of the boomerang in action. Good deeds come back to you. You need to do more good in your life, and then kindness will save the world.